Here at Vibe Science, ultimately, we're here to empower you to your best self. It's about mind, body, and energy. And you know what? When you work out a lot, when you're eating a healthy diet, it's hard to get enough sodium. It is one of the most important factors in hydration, and hydration controls so many variables of how we feel, how our brain thinks. That's why we're proud to partner with Warrior Salt. Hey, we like to take the BS out of stuff. This is no bullshit, just electrolytes, straight fruit powder and salt, the real deal. I love this product because it's simple. Sometimes we get overcomplicated in the supplements we take, but all I know and what I've learned and the science has proven is you have to have enough salt for that balance of hydration. This stuff mixes really easy with water, as you see. You got to be watching the YouTube to get the full effect of this. How easy that mixes in, and a very simple citrus flavor that's delicious, easy to drink, and perfect before and after the exercise to stay hydrated. Look, if you're already thirsty, you've waited too long. That's why you need Warrior Salt, official partner of Vibe Science and Ryan Alford. Delicious, and will keep you hydrated all day long.
And the universe has a good sense of humor, and I started seeing hearts everywhere. And every time I saw a heart in nature, I would take a photograph of it. And I would keep it for myself as a reminder that whenever things got challenging or painful, if I tuned into my heart, I would find solutions. I would find peace. I would find healing. And so that's what I started to do. I started to lead my life from my heart. And as a healer, that really deepened the work that I did with my clients. Most people have gone through mainstream psychology and psychiatry and mental health and all of that. And by the time they come to me, they've told their story so many times, they don't want to tell it again. And I say to them, I don't want to hear your story. I want to hear how you're telling your story, because that's where the healing is.
This is Vibe Science, a top 100 wellness podcast presented by the Radcast Network, breaking wellness barriers and making health truly personal. Here are your hosts, Ryan Alford and Chris Hansen.
Hello, and welcome to Vibe Science. We're always taking you to your highest vibe. It's about mind, body, energy as we help navigate you to your best self. We don't have it all figured out. That's why Chris and I, every week, bringing you the best and brightest from around the world. We go up north today. We've got master healer and holistic counselor. Who's always got the edge. It is Megan Edge. What's up, Megan?
That was an awesome introduction, Ryan. I feel all pumped up now. High vibes.
That's right.
Hey, just I'm good for very few things. I guess the pump up at the beginning of the episode is one of them.
You've got a great face for radio.
My mom always said that. Oh, me. What's happening today, Megan?
Well, it's a beautiful day up here in British Columbia, southern British Columbia. The sun is shining. It's about 30 degrees, super warm for our neck of the woods. We're usually quite a bit cooler. And when we're done our fabulous conversation, I'm heading out into the forest to do some foraging.
Yeah. Chris and I were commenting how jealous we were that you were doing that after this. Chris doesn't even have forest to go to. I mean, I have forest to get to, but I'm just so busy I can't get out there, at least today. But that's awesome. Chris, I'd love some foraging. I don't know about you.
I would totally love to go forage, but there's not much here to forage in Miami.
You might be surprised, though, Chris, because there's a whole thing called urban foraging. And that's, walking up and down the roads and seeing where the dandelions are growing up through the cracks in the sidewalk.
Well,
or the
I
bayou.
have to look that up. Maybe YouTube some urban foraging. There probably is some good stuff somewhere around here.
It doesn't sound as good, though. I'll tell you that.
Doesn't sound as clean.
That's true. That's true. And the medicine is there. But when you're out in the forest or you're on the beach or you're on the lake or the fields, I mean, that is the purest medicine as far as I'm concerned.
Author of The Heart's Journey. Is that correct?
That's correct.
My notes are right.
Yes.
What's an oracle creator?
Have you ever heard of the Oracle of Delphi? Delphi?
Yes. I don't remember every part about it, but I have heard of it.
Yeah, an oracle is somebody who provides messages of inspiration or messages of support, essentially helping people to find their way through difficult situations, navigate through life's, ups and downs. So an oracle card is basically, it's a piece of paper, looks like a card. It's got an image on the front, it's got writing on the back, and the message is what's on the back of it. And in my case, the Heart's Journey, Healing Hearts, Oracle Cards and Guides book is all about the heart. And it's my journey through coming out of a 23-year marriage with 2 small children and all that entailed, and asking for a sign, literally from the universe. What can you show me that when I see it, I'll know that I'm following my path, or I'm making my choices with integrity. And the universe has a good sense of humor. And I started seeing hearts everywhere. And every time I saw a heart in nature, I would take a photograph of it. And I would keep it for myself as a reminder that whenever things got challenging or painful, if I tuned into my heart, I would find solutions. I would find peace. I would find healing. And so that's what I started to do. I started to lead my life from my heart. And as a healer, that really deepened the work that I did with my clients. And as I started showing people these amazing heart photographs, clients started telling me they wanted to have more of them. They wanted me to share them. And they wanted to know what I was feeling at the time that I took these photographs. And that became the genesis for this whole box set behind me. That is the 42 Healing Hearts cards, the guidebook, where I share my story of coming out of that marriage and what that was like. And then working with the Oracle cards as a meditation tool, as a healing tool. And then you get a notebook where you can keep all your card pulls, and you get a pen and you get a bookmark. So you get everything you need to work with the Oracle and follow your heart and heal your heart.
I think I need this, number one. And number two, it reminds me, it's a simple thing, but my wife does this with my kids, and my mom would do it with me, like the notes she'd put in the lunchbox.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a different thing, but it's symbolic and simple, but it's also like a refreshing reminder of the power of like the written word and, small things and how important they are. And
Absolutely.
when you were talking, I was thinking of your next book. It should have been Peace Peace at the Edge or something. It's something, because what I heard, like you were kind of at the edge of your despair. You were like at the edge, ready to kind of fall off, but then you found peace. So there's something interesting there. Anyway, sorry. Just where my marketing creative mind goes, but
that's okay. I love it. I'm always open to what's coming next.
Yeah. Because I was thinking living on the edge, but it's like peace at the edge, peace on the edge. Anyway, I digress. But Chris, I love the power of small things like this.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some great girls in my life that would, when I would travel, typically write me little Post-it notes in my luggage. I think power of written word is everything. I think it's a lost art. Honestly, I wish we had more of it lately, but I know I have little stuff that I like read every day, right? I need little reaffirmations, whether it's affirmations, or I'll write on my mirror with a dry erase marker. I'll write on my freaking sliding glass doors with dry erase marker, honestly, just to, we need those reminders, right? And I think there is power in writing things down, but I think it's beautiful. I took a peep at them on the website. They look very cool.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the power of words to transform our lives is amazing. And it's part of what I do in my work when I'm with clients, is to listen to the way in which they're telling their story. It's not just listening to their story, because they've told their story 1,000 times by the time they get to me. Most people have gone through mainstream psychology and psychiatry and mental health and all of that. And by the time they come to me, they've told their story so many times, they don't want to tell it again. And I say to them, I don't want to hear your story. I want to hear how you're telling your story, because that's where the healing is. When we understand how someone is telling their story, the words that they're using, we get a window into what is behind the story and what's keeping the trauma in place. Inevitably, when we start switching up the words that they're saying to describe themselves, or the way that they're describing their life, into a high vibration wording, everything changes, everything shifts. And the old paradigm, or the old way in which they were relating to themselves, completely falls apart. And then we get to start again. And we get to take what works and we get to leave what doesn't. And the person gets to experience a deep and permanent transformative healing. It's amazing, just with words. I mean, there's more to it than that, but that's where we start, is with the words.
Some of the greatest fiction writers are ourselves,
Mm,
about what we believe and say about ourselves. We think it's all nonfiction because we think we're talking our biography, but it's
right.
actually fiction that we've made up in our own mind and the narratives that we tell ourselves. And I'm guilty of this, good and bad.
Hmm.
It's really enlightening to think. I mean, like, a more negative way to say that is like we're our own greatest liars, But in
Yes.
some ways we are, though. We
Yeah.
convince ourselves of these narratives and truths that have such a slant to them, and for good and bad, but they obviously keep us in places where we're trying to get out of.
Well, that's just it. And it can be something as simple as saying, I have the worst luck. Well,
Yeah.
hang on a second. Is that actually true? Let's question this. Let's question everything. Is it true that you have the worst luck? You demonstrate to me how you've had the worst luck. And then the person will start listing off all these things that have happened to them that confirm their belief that they have the worst luck. But when I can turn that around and reframe it into, yes, but what about after that event happened, then what happened? Well, then I realized that, I never should have been with that person. Oh, okay. So it wasn't bad luck. It was observation. And you took yourself out of that situation. So now you could say, I have the best luck all the time.
Do you work with kids?
I cautiously work with children. I have to be very mindful. The work that I do is not governed by any health body. There is
Yeah.
no college of energy healers and spiritual counselors and energy workers in Canada. And that's a good thing on the one hand, because it allows me freedom. I'm not constricted by particular rules or protocols or expectations of my relationships with people. But with children, I'm always very specific with the parents, that the parents are either present or, depending, if the child is in their early teens to teens, the parent doesn't have to be present, but the parent needs to be aware that this is the work that we're doing, and they need to understand my approaches. And of course, everything would be tailored then to where the child is at and what's happening for the child.
And the reason I asked is because as much as adults need this, I feel like kids could benefit from it tremendously. Like my oldest son, who is a saint, like he's 16 going on 72, like he's a very old spirit. But ironically, we're in a blended family. I have two from a first marriage. They were 2 and 4 and had joint custody with my ex. And my wife, now who I've been with 10 years, had a 2-year-old when we met. So we brought 2 2-year-olds and a 4-year-old together, and then ended up having a child down the road. So we have 4.
Full house.
Full house.
Yeah.
But it's so funny you use that exact comparison of my 2 first, Hudson the youngest and Clayton the oldest, who's 16. Clayton's always, how unlucky I am, and how lucky Hudson is.
Mm.
And Hudson has grown up to be the all-American kid, very self-confident, gets along with adults. Clayton, A student, not in any way deficient, but a different personality anyway. But that narrative, which I have been squashing for 3 years, and he doesn't say it anymore, but it's so funny. I can see what impact that had on him for a certain period of time and how we've tried to work it out of him. And I think he's 90% there, but hearing you talk, it just made me think of that example. But it's so true. And I'm using him as the example that we tell ourselves these things. And it's like that, it's really dangerous, to what it can do to you.
Yeah, it's the power of suggestion. And if you're in marketing and branding, the power of suggestion, and how manipulative that can be when you're wanting someone to do something you want them to do. You want them to buy a particular thing. You want them to think a particular way. There's a whole science around the psychology of manipulation.
Yeah.
Joe Vitale wrote that wonderful book. I actually happen to have it right here, Hypnotic Writing. Right. And this is how to seduce and persuade customers with your own words. Politicians do it all the time. If we're aware and conscious of the way other people are speaking, we can then start looking to ourselves and our own language to understand. And it's something as simple. So you just mentioned your former wife, you're the mother of your
Mhm.
2 children, and you referred to her as your ex, which is what we commonly do in our culture, my ex. But that the word ex, it's a very harsh word. It comes with a very low vibration. And when I
Yeah.
say that, I know that sounds woohoo, but actually
No,
we can
I
judge the vibration of a word, right? We can pick up on that, the sine, cosine, and all that, the vibration of it. So when I separated out from my husband, my daughter's father, I was really conscious of how it was going to impact my children, the way in which they heard me speaking about their father. So rather than saying my ex, I chose to say my former husband.
Mhm.
And I didn't say to them, your dad or your father when they were little. Now that they're adults, we can speak like that. But I remembered when my parents separated and my mother would go into a rage and your father this and your father that. And I would feel like I was responsible somehow for my father in the way that she was wording it. Like he was my father, not her former husband. She wasn't taking the responsibility. She was putting it on me. That's how I felt at the time. So when this happened in my own life, I wanted to do it differently. So I still refer to him as my former husband or my husband. That was my aunt's word for it. My
I like
husband.
that.
Yeah. And never will they hear me say anything derogatory or negative about their father in front of them. Not ever, because that's not their relationship with him. That's my relationship with him. And as the adult, it's my responsibility to look after that relationship and make sure that the relationship that they have with both him and myself is appropriate.
You know, Chris, this show and like, I guess almost like getting older and like experiencing a lot of different things. But like for me, Chris, like when I hear that, like I almost believe now, not only do I believe what you just said, with energy, because you think about it, it's simpler than we think. But when you have negative thoughts or
Mm-hmm.
you're, I mean, I keep, I'm a dad and a husband more than anything else in life, and a CEO and own companies, but those two things come first. So that I always use those as examples. But like when my wife and I are at odds a bit, I know the energy that I'm bringing and how much impact that has. And it's not always physical or even words. Like I know the power of that so much so that I believe I don't, you think of like voodoo dolls and like how crazy that sounds, but like, I don't think it was like sticking pins in people. But I believe that people that are attuned enough, if you had 5 people around this table and they were conjuring negative thoughts about someone, I almost believe now that has more power than we would have ever thought on if people were, I really, I actually believe this now that can have, and not because I would blame some negative thing that happened to me, but because I believe in that negative energy and positive energy and the impact that it can have. I don't know about you, Chris.
I'm all about this. I mean, yes,
He's
and what you
just
just
laid back.
said.
He's just taking it all in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even what keeps popping in my mind is for some reason emotion and energy in motion.
Yeah.
And and I always relate it to sports, especially with you, Ryan, because you're a sports guy. Like we've seen miracles happen in sports games, right? Like there's a power, and you get a group of guys all in visualizing the same thing, whether it's a win or a big play, where we've seen like, how the hell did they just pull that off? Right.
Yeah.
Where that to me is like that positive group visualization, group think, same as negative. Right. And I kind of had a conversation with a buddy of mine yesterday, kind of similar to this, where like it's you versus you and your thoughts. And he kind of corrected me, like, we're one thing and our thoughts are a different thing. Like we don't have to accept every thought. And unfortunately, a lot of us think negative. Our default is negative. And I think some of that is biological to avoid risk and preserve life, right? Especially when it comes to business, right? We're always it's easy to get on defense a lot of the time. But having to really flip into that positive mindset, best case scenario, and naturally evolutionarily wise, I think we think worst case scenario, right? Because we want to avoid bad things happening. But really, it's a gift to really pivot into the positive thinking and because I think it domino effects, and we can see it. I can see it in my daily life. If I literally smile at a stranger and say hello first thing in the morning, my day goes better. And it's almost like pretty quickly, it's like a boomerang reaction where like, and I walk by someone else and they smile at me and say something nice, where it's like, it just takes a little bit of consciousness and effort. And that's where I've seen like energy in motion, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
you put in a little effort and maybe go against my natural tendency, which is to be more like withdrawn and quiet. I'm just going to walk my dog. I haven't had my coffee yet. And I'm just using this example in the morning. But there really is power when you put yourself out there and put positive out, right? Like it truly does manifest. And I know when it comes to energy, I mean, like the simplest way is you are who you surround yourself with, right? You hang out with a group of 4 other positive, happy people, even if you're in a bad mood, you're probably going to leave in a better mood than you came with. And same as in the negative, right? I mean, I think it's not that hard of a concept if you truly consciously think about it. And like you just said, Ryan, we've seen it all happen. And I mean, I know I've used the example with you about Wi-Fi, right? We can't see it, we can't touch it, we can't taste it, but we know that we open our phone and we want to go on YouTube, it works. And not once have we questioned it since it launched, right? It just, oh, cool, we went wireless, this works. And that's where I think is so, like your example, Megan, of just these people that are like, I don't believe in that. It's like, well, you believe in electricity, don't you, bro? When you flip the light, your lights turn on. How many times do you even question that? 0. So,
Yeah.
I'd almost say that's their own defense mechanism, because it is a negative vibration in a way, because it's the defense mechanism. Well, I don't have to believe that, like, so I can stay in the place that I'm at, because, like, you can get into reverse psychology of what that actually means, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Megan?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, everything that both of you are saying, there's so many points that are coming to me to talk about. I love the energy in motion, that energy and emotion is basically energy in motion. So emotions are energy moving through our body. It's perfect description of it. Absolutely a perfect description of it. The ways in which we keep ourselves safe, we learn them at very, very early ages. Most often even before we're born, we're already learning from our environment and from the people in our environment. And we're not easy creatures to change. We generally, for most of the population, get set in our ways. And that old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's not true, by the way. I mean, you certainly can, and people can change, but they have to want to change. And when you were talking about the voodoo and all of that, there was something came up in my mind. I had a client years and years ago phone me up and ask if I could remove a curse. She said, "Do you do curses?" It's like, "No, I don't do curses." I said, "I don't believe in curses." And that really put her in a tailspin. What do you mean you don't believe in curses? I said, look, someone can say something negative about you. They can even wish negative and harmful things to you. The only way it's going to be effective is if there's somewhere in your being that allows it to happen. And I know this is a bit of a controversial viewpoint on curses for those who really do believe in it and who believe they have the power to send a curse, never mind, receiving it and having the effect of it. But it really does come down to the power of our belief. If I believe you've cursed me, and there's a part of me that accepts that, and then something negative happens, like I get into a fender bender, well, there's my evidence. It's like what we were talking about at the beginning. There's my evidence. But if what I've done is my own work, my own energy work, my own emotional work, and I'm not invested in what somebody else thinks of me, and I am not invested in the belief that they can somehow influence me negatively, then they can shoot all the negative barbs they want at me, but it's going to be water off a duck's back, right? I'm going to have my beautiful energy shield up, and anything that they're trying to send to me that isn't theirs to give me and isn't in my highest good, it gets reflected back to them so they can deal with it. Because the only reason anyone would send a curse is because they're lacking something in their life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's the psychology of it.
Yeah. Talking with Megan Edge. She is a master healer and holistic counselor. Plant medicine, I know, is a big part of your approach. Talk to us about some of the things you recommend and practices, etc.?
The biggest recommendation I have for absolutely anybody is go outside. Please go outside. I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're in downtown New York or if you're in the bayou or if you're up in the mountains. Go outside. You are a part of nature. We come from this earth. We have evolved on this earth. And there may be theories about, seeding from above or whatever, fine. But our DNA is intrinsically enmeshed with this planet. Go outside. Look at the sun. Vitamin D is so important. Vitamin D is not actually a vitamin, it's a hormone, but it's produced by the sun. It's produced when we're out in the sun. And then our bodies can absorb vitamin D through things like mushrooms, which is one of the things I forage for. Mushrooms are a very high source of vitamin D. Lichen is a very high source of vitamin D. There's other foods that absorb vitamin D as well, and then our bodies can absorb it from there. But we don't store vitamin D. And the research that's been done on vitamin D is incredible. There's so much research that supports this. It's good for everything. If you're feeling depressed and down, go outside, sit in the sunshine, lift your face up. You will feel better.
And you said another thing that I think is true. That's like, we have a lot of mirrors, but that mirror is lying to you, it's like, you think all mirrors are the same as a reflection, but it's not. You can't see yourself, like you said. Like, you can't see what you could be, and you also can't see what is necessarily wrong, or like, you can't see it all. It's just lying to you.
Well, that's true. We all have blind spots. I have blind spots. You have blind spots. Chris has blind spots. We all have blind spots where we show up in the world in a certain way, or we react and respond to our environment or to the events that are happening in our lives in certain ways that we are not aware that we are doing. Those are our blind spots. And so some of the work that I do with people, with my students especially, because they're the ones who are going to go out and become healers, is we do a lot of work around what are your blind spots? What don't you know about yourself? Right? Because you can only know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know until you know it, which is some more wordplay, but it's true. And that self-reflection, we're talking about mirrors, but the self-reflection is where the information is. The information is also in the mirroring of the people around us. Who are we attracting with our energy? And why are they showing up? And what can we learn from that interaction about ourselves? Right? That's more of the mirroring. And it's interesting because I love mirrors. I love having mirrors in my house, not because I love to look at myself, but I just love the quality of a mirror. I love how it makes a room bigger. And there's something so magical and mysterious about it. What's really interesting about mirrors is that our generations, I would say from the last maybe 60 years, and certainly within the last 20 years since we've had computers and cell phones and Facebook, Instagram, and all those others, TikTok, in no other time in human history have so many people been able to see themselves. Think about that for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
At no other time. 300 years ago, when would you have seen your reflection? You would only have seen your reflection in the way that somebody else looked at you.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't do that anymore. We've lost how to do that.
Yeah.
I would love for people to relearn, to learn again, to look into each other's eyes and see the reflection of ourselves in how the other person is responding to us. Instead of going onto Facebook or Instagram or TikTok and seeing ourselves there, because that's not a true reflection of ourselves. That's pretty profound.
Very profound.
Yeah.
That's very true, because we're documenting or showing something that most of the time is made for TV, or made for consumption in an image that not necessarily who we are, because we're trying
That's right.
adapt.
We're trying to invoke a response.
Yeah.
When we put out a post on Facebook or on Instagram or wherever, we're looking for a response. We're looking for validation. We're looking for someone to say, hey, that's great. Congratulations for finding the chip aisle and foraging your potato chips, if that's your post. But what we're not doing, what we've lost is that ability to show up in the world with confidence, allow other people to have their experience of us, and then learn from their response to us something about ourselves, something about the way that we're showing up in the world. And, the reason that we call, we have a term of narcissistic personality disorder, comes from the Greek god who gazed at himself, his reflection in the water, because he was so beautiful. That's where the term narcissist comes from. So that I think is also profound in this conversation around mirroring, and what are we doing when we are putting ourselves out into the world. And the ultimate question that I always have for my clients and my students is, how do you want to be seen? Not how do you want to be noticed? How do you want to be seen? What is the projection that you want to put out into the world of the kind of person that you are? If you're a kind, loving person, and that's what you want the world to see in you, then you better be a kind, loving person. And not everyone's going to love that, and not everyone's going to respond in kind, but that doesn't matter as long as you're standing in who you want to be and how you want to be received in the world and seen in the world.
Megan, where can everybody learn more about what you're doing?
Well, they can certainly come and visit me at my website, which is meganedge.ca. I'm also on Instagram, and I'm on Facebook. I'm not posting about my potato foraging, unless I'm actually out in the fields foraging for potatoes. I also have a YouTube channel, and there are loads and loads. There's over 300, 400 videos that I've made over the last 10, 15 years. And each of those videos is a little nugget of me. And so if you want to learn more about me or more about the way that I show up in the world and things that I share, please go over to my YouTube channel. It's Megan Edge Healing. And have a look. There's workshops, there's radio shows, there's interviews, there's all kinds of things, all kinds of teaching and stuff over there. And then I'm also on LinkedIn as well. I'm happy to connect in any of those places, or shoot me an email. The old-fashioned way.
Just take it to the edge. I could go on and on. Chris, any final words for Megan?
Thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed it. It was very great energy exchange this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation and getting to know you both.
Yeah, likewise. Hey, you know where to find us, vibescience.com. We'll find the full episode, audio and video, as well as write-ups from this show, links to Megan's stuff. Powerful discussion around being your best self and what it takes, and just being honest with the reflection in the mirror and how you're talking to yourself and how you're talking to others. Energy matters. That's why we talk about mind, body, and energy. And it's purposeful, because it has the power to make you your best self. We'll see you next time on Vibe Science.
The content discussed on this show is provided for reference and educational purposes. The content is not an attempt to practice medicine or provide specific medical advice. Always consult your personal physician for medical advice and proper diagnosis.
Thanks for listening. This is Vibe Science. To learn more or watch full episodes, visit vibesciencepodcast.com. Here's to discovering your highest vibe